let's dive right in, because I know that when listeners, peek into your experience and what went down there, I think it'll be eye-opening for a lot of people, because a good population of podcast listeners have had athletic backgrounds and experiences. In fact, the last person I had on the podcast was a collegiate football player who then went on to play arena football. A lot of them understand the ups and downs of the athletic world. But you had a pretty unique experience that I feel could draw parallels to a lot of people and some of the pits that they may face, in their personal lives. And so let's talk about what happened in December of 2010.
Yeah. So in December, I started college a little bit early. I didn't turn 18 until my freshman year of college. So I was almost 19, not quite. I was 18. We must have just finished up the football season, and we were getting ready for basketball and competition season. And we were doing a new stunt, at least new to me, new to us. And it sort of involved 3 different layers of a pyramid. And I was the middle layer. And when we started off, we were not very good at it. And so one of the times, it was late at night, we fell, and the girl that was on the top layer came down and her foot hit my chest. So I sort of had some immediate pain, was not feeling good. Thought remember, I was an athletic training student at the time. I had very minimal knowledge. So I thought maybe I had cracked a rib, or maybe I had given myself a little intercostal strain or something. I wasn't really sure, but I didn't feel good. And so I was done practicing for the day. We had maybe half an hour left. I kind of pulled myself out. I was like, I'm not feeling good. I'm just going to go home. So practice ended. I went home. Then I woke up the next morning and I was really not feeling good. I had a lot of tightness in my chest and felt like I couldn't really take a deep breath in. So I went to our student health center. I did a little walk-in visit. And as soon as I got there, one of the first things they do is try and check your vitals. Well, they couldn't find a pulse in my left arm. So they were freaking out, and I was freaking out because they were freaking out. And I knew enough to know that wasn't good, but I didn't know enough to know what the heck that could mean. So I actually got sent to the local hospital there, where they started doing a more complex workup. And the first thing they did was a CT scan. They did a bunch of blood work. And then they came in and they told me that they weren't quite sure what was going on, but it looked like when the girl had come down and sort of hit me in the chest, my clavicle, right? So my collarbone had subluxed posteriorly, right? So meaning that it had gone backwards far enough that it had stressed that joint and squished everything that's behind it. So if you look at the anatomy that's behind that on the left side, it's not good, right? You got your heart and everything above it. So it had sort of squished my subclavian artery. Now, in a normal person, if you go backwards and squish your subclavian artery with that amount of force, you're going to rupture it and you're probably going to bleed out pretty fast. I should have bled out pretty fast. It should have ruptured, and I should have probably died within a few minutes on that gym floor. But it didn't. And so they were trying to figure out what had happened. And so when they looked at my scans, I had a really big thickening of my subclavian artery right in that area, right? And so that's the artery that's going to supply my left arm with blood. So it's probably why I didn't have a pulse in that arm. And it's also going to, connect later on, right, to the carotid artery. It goes up to your brain. So they were trying to figure out what was going on. And they started looking at just that small area where I had the trauma. I had this big sort of blood clot in my chest. They thought that maybe somehow it was related to that incident, and I was really lucky. Well, when they started looking at the rest of the CT scan, they noticed that I had these really big thickenings in other arteries as well. So my ascending aorta, right, that comes off the top of my heart, the descending aorta that comes off the bottom, and then one of the arteries that goes down into your abdomen. And so that couldn't have been related to trauma. So they were, looking at other things like my blood work and stuff like that. So they ended up diagnosing me with autoimmune disease, which is called Takayasu's arteritis, which most people never heard of. I'd never heard of it.
I'm going to pause you right there. Can you spell that for the audience?
I can. So it's Takayasu's, and it's arteritis. So it's like an arterial inflammation.
Got it. And you're very well spoken now. And, I just want to ask you, as all this was happening, did you understand everything that they were telling you? Because,
absolutely not.
Okay.
Absolutely not.
Just want to make sure, because I'm sure a lot of people are going to hear, and you're doing a very good job in terms of breaking it down in layman's terms right now. But I can only imagine that when this original diagnosis was coming through, your head must have been spinning.